Hello, my name is Leslie Pooler, and I am a student at Tulsa Community College. And this video is going to be for my developmental psychology course, and it is for the topic that I got to choose, which I got to choose from the list of topics that were basically from developmental phases and stages that we have been studying for this semester in our developmental psychology course. And so mine is the phase that I chose was stage is the biosocial development of the first 2 years of life, from birth to 24 months. And I chose that because I feel like it's very fascinating how much development and growth takes place during this phase, essentially more than any other stage in life of development. And then also I think it's pretty important to realize and to learn and know just how both resilient and fragile children can be at this age, from birth to 24 months old. I learned a lot of that myself through parenting, but also I learned even more just from being assigned this assignment. So pretty interesting stuff that I got to learn. This is just kind of like a picture that I drew on this dry erase, kind of like what they show you whenever you take your kids to the doctor, and you have all of these checkups for the first 2 years, and they gradually start to slow down with time, but they have so many in the beginning because it is such a critical period for growth and development, and so of course wanting to catch any any signs of potential problems with the baby is something you'd want to do to catch very early on, because that can help prevent the problems from going on for a prolonged period of time, or sometimes even going on, being a permanent problem for the child that spans their entire duration of their life. So anyhow, usually, like whenever and I guess I really didn't even realize just how significant this was, but of course I knew it was important, but I just didn't really realize all the details until this course and this assignment. And so essentially what this is just like a kind of like a very simple drawing of what the charts look like when they show you where your baby is on the scale, like on the growth scale, in comparison to other children. And usually what they'll do is they'll show, it's like, this is your, I think this is, it would be weight, like in pounds down the side here, and then in months across the bottom is the child's age, and then they'll usually mark where the baby is on the the graph comparatively to other children with the same, with male or female, anyhow. So they show you that, and the other things, just like the height, the weight, and the measuring their head, and all the other things that they do, and their reflexes and that kind of thing. And they go over everything like that with you at each appointment, wherever the baby is in the process of their their developmental stage at that time. The two theories that we have really spoke about or learned about, I guess, in this course are two of the theories are one, or they're very, they're very, actually two very significant psychologists that have contributed a great deal to the world, to the field of psychology, and that is Piaget. He has come up with a theory on development, and for the first developmental phase in Piaget's theory is 1 out of 4 phases for his theory, and this is the first 2 years, from birth to 2 years, is called the sensory motor phase, and that is basically like where a baby, is learning things based on their understanding of the world through like senses and motory skills and such, and that's basically how they learn to do everything that they learn to do in the very beginning, and majority of everything that they learn in that first 2 years. And then the other thing that we are learning is, the other theory that we've learned a lot about is the Erickson theory. His is 8 phases, or 8 stages, and the one that, well, there's actually 2 that would cover this time frame for this assignment topic, which mine is the first 2 years of life, and this is so there would be the infancy in the Erickson theory, and it's called infancy trust versus mistrust, and then the toddler phase, which is the autonomy. I don't know, I can't say that word right now, versus shame and doubt phase. And those are 2 phases that that's basically a healthy person would go through, and then move on to the next the next stage of development, and go and go through all 8 as they progress through the development, their development through life. And until I did the research for this assignment, the paper, and we had a paper assignment as well, but coordinate with the video, I honestly did not know that neglect and basically neglect and malnutrition is a more severe has a more severe has more significant impact on the baby, and can have much more significant harm that can be caused to the baby, more than any other form of abuse or neglect, or malnutrition and things like that. Any of that, all encompassing the neglect is has the more significant impact on the baby. So one thing I wanted to share real quick here is the last thing basically that I'll share is the studies have shown how significant the mother and baby interaction is in children and children's development, so much so that the child's intellectual growth is directly impacted by the mother's emotions. Whether a mother is happy or sad, the baby can differentiate just 2.5 months, after they're born. The baby's joy and exploratory motivation, exploratory, sorry, couldn't read that very well. Exploratory motivation comes from the mother's being in a positive emotional disposition. On the flip side of that, the mother being under duress results in the baby experiencing withdrawal and negative emotions. And that is from well, I'll go ahead. I'll continue on. This is finish this up right quick. The implications are profound. If an infant is unresponsive, this may be a sign of autism, often mistaken for deafness, or it can be, or it may be more subtle, maybe a more subtle warning of poor cognitive learning. A negative emotional atmosphere inhibits cognitive development. And this is Harvard University's National Scientific Council on the Developing Child published an article, The Science of Neglect. The persistent absence of the responsive care disrupts the developing brain that speaks of the serve and return relationship between parents and baby. They liken it to like a volleyball or a tennis game, with the baby gesturing for reaction and engagements with their parents by use of facial expressions and babbling and making noises and such. And then the parents typically will return those imitations and behaviors back and forth with the baby, where there is a breakdown or removal of this reciprocal, particularly in the form of neglect. The results can be catastrophic for the baby, significantly more so than even physical abuse. Those interactions are far more important than many people realize clearly. And so I guess to conclude here is just essentially that, unfortunately, infants and children experience all ranges of deprivation and abuse and neglect, and although there are often lifelong struggles that come from every level of negative and poor caregiving experience, there are also a great opportunity for babies and children to recover from hardships with the right circumstances. For infants and young children who have experienced adversity, resilience is most likely to be supported through caregiver regulation. Different types of early adverse experiences may be coupled with barriers to effective caregiver regulation, and interventions should be selected that are tailored to the level of need, including ensuring the young children have a caregiver who is cognizant and consistently available, and who can provide effective regulation. And that is clearly evident, of just how important it is that we catch these things and make sure to take babies in for their checkups and whatnot with the doctor, and ensure that they get everything that they're needing while they are in our care. There is certainly far more, possibly endless amounts of information about development not covered here in this, obviously, in this short little video, and even the development within just the first 2 years. But the studies done thus far over this early stage of biosocial development in the first 2 years of life have shown itself to be a vital time frame to study both positive and negative impacts on children from the effects of nurture and nature, both positive and negative effects of that. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something.